welcome to another episode of Iconic Freedom, the Formula. We are setting the standard for accountability and responsibility, the ownership of your choices and the consequences for those choices. Let each care for self, and all will be cared for.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me.
So this is really one of my favorite movies of all time. What I find really fascinating is that over the years I revisit the movies and the trilogy itself. Probably one of my favorite characters. I mean, I do enjoy Neo. I think it's kind of fun. But I love the Oracle. I have a friend that she reminds me very much of the Oracle, in that she is very prescient when it comes to understanding the past, the present, and the future, which is so amazing to me. So the topic of this Awakening series is the choice. And I really, of course, this is the very beginning of that movie, and it's offering Neo the choice of the red pill or the blue pill. And then, he's described it as it's supposed to be, blah, blah, blah. So the thing that occurs to me, though, about choice, and for a long period of time in my own life, I did not realize that I was making a choice. Now, I know that sounds kind of crazy to say. How do you know you're not making a choice? It's like, well, if you are not conscious to understanding that life is happening because of you, that life is not happening to you, then you're not really understanding that you're making a conscious choice. You're thinking, oh, I'm just doing this, and then all these things start happening. It's like, wait, what? Or every time you go to do something, you cross your fingers that it's going to go well. Or for some people, they like to say a prayer. But the idea is, the whole concept and the reality is that you are making a choice in everything that you do. It isn't just the large things that you do. If you decide to get married, or you want to buy a house, or you decide to change jobs, it's in the moment-to-moment choices that you are making throughout your day. You wake up in the morning, you roll over, that's a choice. You grab your phone, that's a choice. You open it up, that's a choice. You decide to get up and use the restroom, that's a choice. You get some coffee, that's a choice. Everything along the way is a choice. And it's not just saying the choice to get up out of bed and go make coffee. It's every choice from the moment you get out of bed, from the moment you pull the covers off and you sit up and you put your legs on the floor and you decide to stand up and you start to walk and you walk out and you open the door and then you walk out to the kitchen. All of those are your choices. Now, I mean, as tedious as that sounds, you think about the millions of choices that you make just like that every single day. So what separates you and your conscious understanding from other people that do not? And the fact is, the reality is the choice. It's understanding that you have a choice in every moment of every day, that you do anything, that you say anything, that you don't say anything. It was one of my favorite lines from a show that I saw on Broadway one time where this brother and sister are fighting and she says, you know, Michael, I am not upset about the things that you do. I'm upset about the things that you don't do. Because all of those things send a message. And that's the other piece of this, that's many pieces, but another piece of this is that whatever you're saying and doing is sending a message. Whatever you do, whatever you don't do, is sending a message. Here's some pretty basic stuff just to kind of reiterate and refresh if you have not listened to this podcast in a while or this is your first time in. Everything in life moves towards something or it moves away from it. You're walking towards something or away from it. All of your choices toward whatever your goal is tells everyone what it is that you're doing. Recently I was on X and I was interacting with somebody and I said that your decision to march in that direction that you're going is towards the destruction of society. And, you know, the person, you know, obviously has an issue with it, but they're not understanding, you know, well, how would I know that? Because of all your choices. All I'm doing is observing your choices. I'm not like, you know, some clairvoyant. I'm not reading tarot cards or crystal ball. I'm just looking at your choices. But this is the secret to me of life, or at least one of them, is that when you start looking at other people's behavior, you start looking at your own behavior, and you think, I want to do this in life. Okay, what choices are you doing to go in that direction? And the more you make choices to go in that direction, the closer you get to whatever the goal is. Not everybody is as conscious of that. And so you're looking at what am I moving towards and what am I moving away from? What do I say? What do I not say to people? Because, you know, in the silence, there's an awful lot said, right? I mean, you've been in situations where you'll text somebody and they don't text back. And you're like, what is that? Well, no message is a message, if you hadn't thought of that before. So I really want to reiterate the power of choice and that this choice happens in everything that you do. I happened to be on a call with my friend and she and I were chatting about a situation that I had just walked away from, and she made a comment to me, you know, well, you know, you're not happy with that dentist, but didn't you make that choice? And I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, yeah. Well, it's like, well, don't you have to own that choice? Yes. And then, like playing solitaire on the computer, I turned over that card. I was ready in that moment, and everything fell into place, and I understood. Now, just so you know, that was 20 years ago, And a lot has happened since then. And it was just basically the beginning of me being able to understand the power of my choice, whether it was a large choice or a small choice. And in that understanding, everything I did from that point forward, I would tell myself, I own that. I own that. I own that. Ooh, I own that. I don't live with regret. I just said this to my friend Dan the other day, that I don't live with any regret. And the reason why I have no regret is because I own my choices. People regret because they don't want to own the choice. They don't want to sit there and go, I made that choice. I didn't like the outcome, but I made the choice. Well, you have no regrets when you own the choice. I look back and I see dollars that I spent that I wasted in my mind for whatever reason, and I think I wish I had those dollars now. But I don't have regret about it. A lot of people will live in regret and they can't move into the harmony of their life. They can't move to order in their life because they regret the choice. You always have a choice. Even in the worst of circumstances, you have a choice. I use this in my book, Iconic Freedom, that you can get on lulu.com. Shameless plug. But I use this example that in the spirit of choice, even people that were, at top of the world of the Trade Center that didn't make it, they made a choice. They went into that building that day. The thing that people that I notice over the years get all kind of bunched up in, and they get kind of confused by it, I think, is that they look at the aspect of, well, that, just because they did that, that's not right. What those people did, they flew airplanes. It's like, that's not what I said. I didn't forgive or forget any of the reasons of what happened. What I did was I stated a reality. A reality is without emotion. What was the reality? You walked into that building. You made a choice. You walked to the elevator. You made another choice. You went inside the elevator. You went up all the way to the top floor. Those are all choices that you made along the way. You made choices when you were in the building next to it, when you saw stuff going on, and you chose not to leave. It doesn't say that the other people that were involved, or, the people that perpetrated this tragedy, that, somehow, erase, they have carte blanche to do whatever they want, or they're forgiven. No, it's just helping you. It's helping myself to say, I made that choice. I could have made other choices, but I didn't. But I made that choice. And in that moment, even the worst of circumstance, I can own the choice. And what happens when you own the choice? You stop being a victim. People see themselves as victims when they are not conscious of the choice, and they think that life is happening to them instead of because of them. Now, one of the things that I wanted to bring up was all of the recent, I talked about the manipulation of and the lies of the media. And I'm going to play a couple of clips and then we're going to follow up with this. But I want you to keep in mind that in each one of these clips, these people are making choices. They're making choices towards the truth and reality, or they're making choices away from it towards lies and deception, sinister, diabolical as they are.
Also interesting is, remember, it's illegal to possess these stolen documents. It's different for the media. So everything you learn about this, you're learning from us. And in full disclosure, let's take a look at what is in there and what it means. Joining us now, CNN's.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
In an attempt to reassure voters about his fitness for office, Biden campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon holding a call with party leaders earlier today, telling them this too shall pass. There is a pattern, discernible pattern, of Democratic officials seemingly trying to convince you, the public, to not believe what you saw and what you heard with your eyes and with your ears on Thursday night.
What I've been able to do with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare, the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Democratic officials have tried to spin this in many ways. They said President Biden just had a cold. They said it was just one off night, akin to when President Obama in 2012 was rusty and seemed a little huffy. But behind the scenes, make no mistake, most Democratic officials witnessed the same shocking spectacle that you did. The difficulty that the presumptive Democratic nominee, the current president of the United States, had just articulating his basic thoughts during the 90 minutes of the debate.
So I want to talk about those three clips. The first one, of course, was Chris Cuomo, and that was when all the stuff with Julian Assange happened and the WikiLeaks and all that stuff. He's making a choice in that moment to try and manipulate people by saying that it is illegal for you to be able to see these documents, but it's not for the media. So he's already setting up the premise that it's not okay for you to go and search this on the website. So they're trying to withhold information. It's a manipulation. Whenever you're not being given a choice, it's a manipulation and a means of control. So he doesn't want anybody else to be able to look at these things because they want to craft a narrative. They want to be able to say things, to nuance things in a particular way in order to march toward what? I don't know. When we start watching people, we start to see, what are they doing? Are they marching towards destruction, or are they marching towards creation? The second clip, and this keeps coming up with the current President Biden, when he talks about President Trump, and he vehemently, passionately says that the reason why he got into the race was because of that press conference, that President Trump called the neo-Nazis very fine people. I just played that clip for you in its entirety. It's not a cheap fake. It's the reality. You can find it anywhere online. You just search it out. I'm trying to remember which news outlet was the one that had that, but they had it out there. And it's like, but you're lying. So you're making a choice. You are making a choice. Let's say this in a different way. He's making a choice to lie. You're making a choice to believe it. So I've talked about before how we either know something, we think it, or we believe it. Believe is the top tier because it has no credibility. It is all based on emotion. And you are not in reality if you are in emotion. When you say, I think something, that means you're looking for more information. You're searching for more information. You need more facts before you can get to what? What I know. Here's what I know. I know that I've watched those videos before. I know that former President Trump did not say that neo-Nazis were fine people. That clip shows that he did not say that. He said there were fine people on both sides and that the Nazis and whatever the supremacists, whatever they were, should be denounced. He said it. It's right there in front of your face. So If you choose to ignore it, you've made a choice. Okay, that's fine. That's your choice. I'm not denying you your choice. You decide. The question then is, if you're setting a standard for yourself, in which direction are you going with that standard? And next week, when I talk about this interview with Tucker Carlson and Catherine Herridge, she is one of the most unique people that I've ever listened to be interviewed, because she talks about these very principles. They just did this interview the other day, and she talks about being responsible, setting a standard, living by the standard. And if you're doing the same thing, then you have to own your choices, every single choice you make. And you have to be able to respond to those choices. I needed to respond to the choice of going to that particular dentist when I lived in New York, and if it didn't go the way I wanted, I had to own it didn't go the way I wanted. I had to own the fact that I made a choice in hopes of an outcome. I needed to see it unfold. It didn't go the way I wanted. Now I go back and maybe I talk to him. Maybe I renegotiate. Maybe I walk away. Maybe I never see him again. There's all kinds of variables that can happen, but I still own the choice, right? So when we're looking at Neo from the very beginning, he's making the choice. I want to go down the rabbit hole. I don't want to be in a delusion where I'm just whimsically walking through life and I'm thinking that life is happening to me instead of because of me. Boy, if you get a chance to watch that movie, it's really good. And then that final clip is Jake Tapper, who is doing a recap of what happened at the debate. Now, what's really interesting is Jake has not been what I would say a very forthright individual, because there has been numerous times over probably the last decade or so that I can think of where he does sit there and lie. He lies like, that particular issue with the Charlottesville, where he was saying things that were not true. So I don't know. Are they getting talking points? I don't know. I don't care. What I know is I know the reality and I know what you've said. And I know there's a contradiction between those two things. They are incongruent. They do not match up. So one of two things. Either the reality has been faked or you're a liar. Now, is it an intentional lie? That I don't know. But what can I do? I can look at that person's choices over and over and over again. Do I see a pattern where they continue to lie? And what's interesting is he's actually saying that. He's actually bringing that up now and saying, these people are telling you to not believe your eyes, to not believe your ears, and that, these things didn't happen. When all along, this has been going on for years. What's going on with the president right now has been going on for years, and anybody that knows anything about a medical condition, especially one of Parkinson's, dementia, cancer, that it keeps progressing and it will get worse and worse. So what is happening? What does all of this mean? Why is this important right now? Because we are on a trajectory. As a society, we are on a trajectory, and we're going to move towards something or we're going to move away from it. Are we going to move towards individual liberty and how that's going to reveal itself and expose itself? Or are we going to move away from it and to a more tyrannical type of government where it's controlling everything that's going on? It wants to control the media, like Chris Cuomo. It's illegal. You don't know. It's too much for you. You aren't smart enough to manage this. All of the stuff about disinformation and misinformation, this is all bullshit. And the reason why it is because these people lack accountability, they lack responsibility, and they are trying to push things out in such a way in order to shape things because they want it to go a particular way. They're attached to an outcome. So they're making that choice. But I'm here to tell you that that choice is incorrect because it's a lie. There is no such thing as misinformation, disinformation. There is information. And whether that information is in reality or not in reality all depends on what you're able to see, what you're able to hear, what you are able to, in the scientific method, replicate. And start applying this to all these other things people are talking about. They're talking about the jab. They're talking about global warming and, climate change, all this other. Great. Show us the replication of science where it becomes a theory. It's no longer your hypothesis. Because what's a hypothesis? I believe. A hypothesis is I believe. You think is when you go down the road of starting to figure it out. You gather facts, you start to test it. I know is a theory that can be replicated or not replicated. So bringing it all back to choice, all back to your choice. When you're listening to these people, listen for the language of how they're trying to manipulate by saying, you are not authorized, you are not smart enough, telling people that, it's racist or bigoted or sexist to demand that people go out and get an identification in order to vote. What is the reason that they're doing that? Put aside their rhetoric and ask yourself, what is the reason they're doing that? What direction are they going? What choices are they making? Because as they make their choices, then whatever the game is, whatever the scam is, it's going to reveal itself. If it's not, and it's something that you see as quality, a good standard, individual liberty, well, then you can see those choices as well. But it all starts with you. You have to get to a place where you understand your own choice. You have to get correct with that piece of it before you're going to be able to apply it to other things. I've seen a lot of people where I will talk to them about this concept, these ideas, then they think they know. They think that they know, but they don't, because they're not able to apply it to their own lives. And then they get into, this person's doing this and they're doing that, and they get very self-righteous because they think that they're right and the other person is wrong. They're simply making choices, and each choice has an outcome. You don't know what the outcome is until you make the choice. Are you able to respond to the choice? The more you can see yourself as being in that moment of understanding, I am making a choice. Everything I do, I'm making the choice. I made the choice to call my dad or not call my dad, to talk to my mother, to not talk to my mother. I made a choice to get back together with that person or not get back together with that person. These are all choices. And any of the outcomes that result from those choices, I must take ownership. Nature will obligate me to do so. You can try to ignore nature, but nature will not ignore you. You can try to deny or lie about reality, much like those last 3 clips, but reality will not lie to you. It's laying in wait at the opportune time to expose itself. And the thing that I observe more and more is as reality continues to expose itself, it starts to get this momentum. And as it gets the momentum, it starts going faster and faster. The universe, life itself, whatever seems that is in disorder will seek to find its own order. It's a law of nature. You can look it up, you can observe it, you can study it. I've observed it, I see it, I get it. And sometimes we look at things and we think that this is chaos and there is no harmony to this. But you step back and you wait, and you start to see choices being made, choices being accountable, responsible, and the ones that are not, and you can start to tell the difference. And the more you can tell the difference, the more people reveal themselves to you. And we are at the end of another podcast. Thank you so much for joining me this Sunday. I hope you enjoyed this and you're getting something out of it. And if you did, hit that like button. Share it with your family and friends. You never know how it might help them on their journey as well. My book is at lulu.com. You can subscribe to the podcast if you'd like. Those links are all down below, which is kind of fun. Let each care for self, and all will be cared for.